And basically, it will allow us to have an Iagon powered white label solution. And this is the potential if the pilot is successful, that every laptop will have an Iagon powered cloud service by default. You can imagine how that can scale on the demand side very quickly.
What's up, Beta Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're talking DePIN, sitting down with Dr. Nath from the official Iagon protocol, which is officially actually launched on the mainnet for a little bit over a year, but there's a lot of brand new things cooking, which we'll be diving into. So without any further ado, let me bring up today's guest, Dr. Nath. Welcome up. How are you?
Hey, Fareed. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again. It's been a long time since I spoke to you, and not so long actually in person. We spoke in the Cardano Summit, but it's been a while on stream.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and maybe that's a good way for us to sort of kick things off, right? How was your experience at the recent Cardano Summit?
Yeah, it was great. So the quality of people that we talked to at the Cardano Summit really amazing. Cardano Foundation did a great job of collecting a lot of intellectual people there, especially in the Web2 space. That really looking to Cardano as a first stop for Web3 and blockchain solutions. So I think it was great connecting with people, great networking, and it's always great to meet people in person.
Nice, nice. Now, before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to sort of lay down the foundation for the viewers. So we'll obviously discuss a little bit about you, your background, what Iagon is for anybody who hasn't heard of it. I'd be highly surprised. I cover it pretty frequently on the channel. But after that, you guys have some new targets, right? You guys are now focusing on enterprise adoption. So I'd love to talk about your private distributed cloud services, followed by delegated staking, your Cyclone hardware, and then we'll discuss the compute portion of Iagon services hitting the mainnet, and then we'll get some closing thoughts or key takeaways from you, Dr. Nath. So without any further ado, for anybody who's maybe hearing or seeing you for the first time, do you mind breaking down a little bit about yourself, your background, and what Iagon is generally speaking?
Yeah, I'm from actually the healthcare sector, so I'm a dentist by profession. I actually came across blockchain and blockchain technology back in 2013 when I read the Satoshi paper. And that's when I tried to imply that basically technology onto medical data, healthcare data, and patient data privacy. So we actually worked on initial concepts and things like that early phase, and then I didn't approach this idea until early 2017, late 2016, with some of the co-founders that are Dr. Rohit Gupta, Dr. Lad Harrison, who were actually at the summit as well. So that was very, very fun for them to be there and get to know the Cardano community, the ecosystem. Also, Dr. Claudio Lima, who couldn't make it, but he's also part of the team. And with their collective kind of skill set, we molded the idea into a much broader scope, focusing not just on medical data and medical data privacy, but in general cloud services. So what Iagon is in general, from that vision onwards, was kind of like an Airbnb for storage and compute. So what we do is we connect end users with performant, compliant, one-click compliant data solutions and compute solutions. Right now, our focus is just on storage. We have people providing their idle capacity, so anyone with idle storage or idle compute can provide their capacities to the Iagon network, and in return earn IAG rewards and or also ADA rewards, which comes in the form of subscription fees that the users are paying. And we connect them basically to end users that are looking for, let's say, cost-effective, reliable, compliant solutions. And that can be anyone from the Web2 and the retail sector as well, but specifically targeting the Web2 industry. So there's two navigations, and we're kind of like the middleman, I guess, Airbnb in this sense. We're matching people's needs with the resource providers.
Nice summarization there for anybody who's hearing about Iagon for the first time, or maybe just want some more information about it. Official links will be left down below. The website is available at iagon.com. That said, maybe we sort of just rehash a little bit, right? What are some of the key developments or some of the biggest highlights, leading into the summit? And then maybe we talk about what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, long term leading up to the summit. So people have to understand we're still very young as a project, even though we've been in the space for a long time. Startups take sometimes longer than anticipated. We started up in 2017, so it's taken 7 years to kind of get to at least the starting phase, or the starting line, if you want to call it that. We launched Mainnet on storage in December last year, in Christmas time. So since that time, we've had about over 500 nodes providing their storage capacity to the network, and almost 8 petabytes of data availability across 51 countries. So that's been a huge success leading up to the summit, and it's been a big turnaround. And Rohit, one of the co-founders, specifically stated that he also attended the last summit. So he also saw this big difference in terms of how Iagon has gone from such a smaller player to a big player in such a short time. And we are also now launching a few other things that we've since the mainnet. We've focused a lot on Web2 enterprise adoption, and actually we've been focusing on them since last year. It's taken long to get here, but we've been focused on them for a while. And then we have the Cyclone device, which is kind of an easy plug and play node for retail users. So people that want to participate in the network and don't have the tech know-how can easily plug and play. So they can plug in the Cyclone or purchase a Cyclone and plug it at home, stake IAG, and earn IAG. And this Cyclones are set up in an optimal way so that you don't have to do any tinkering, but also gives advanced users the option to do tinkering, because it comes without drives and with drives. So you can order without drives, and if you know how to set it up yourself, you can definitely do that. But it also comes with a ready-to-go package with the drives as well. And you can just stake your IAG and start earning rewards. So we launched this Cyclone at Rare Evo a few months ago in August. It's a pre-launch basically, so it's a pre-order, kind of like a Kickstarter. So we will be shipping them out in around 5 months' time. We have to focus on packaging, software, and making sure that it's very easy and simple instructions provided when they do get this device. And it's a very heavy-duty device. It's actually comparatively much more cost-effective than similar NOS systems like Synology and QNAP and things like that. So yes, and these are kind of examples of how some of the collaborations that we're doing with some of our partners, like Omen. They have their own skin available. They did the artwork. It's a beautiful art piece, and we can kind of have these custom pieces for community members and things like that, so they can purchase it. And we've been working with a few others as well that are in the pipeline that will be doing a similar artwork. Yeah, and we will also have a referral program, which will give 5% kickback to the people that are onboarding people to purchase it. It's not live yet, but it will be live soon. So watch out for that. So that's leading up to, I guess, the summit, the Cyclone, the Mainnet are the kind of the main achievements, I guess. There's a lot going on. We also have the compute coming up as well.
Yeah, the alpha's already rolling in. Kudos to you guys. I have to say, I really appreciate the artwork and the customizability of the Cyclones. For full transparency, I don't own one yet, but given how simple and how easy it appears to be able to run, right? I don't consider myself too technical, but I would consider this sort of like still within my realm. So I'm looking forward to contributing to Iagon's sharing economy and hopefully getting my hands on one of these Cyclones as one of the quote unquote pioneers. Now let's jump into enterprise adoption. So I sat down with Giorgio Zanetti from the Cardano Foundation, and he spoke about the fact that the foundation is sort of focusing more or less on enterprise, right? And I think that has sort of trickled down to what you guys are doing. So I'd love to hear, number one, why enterprise? And then number two, why these new solutions when you already have a really working and a functional product?
So the private distributed cloud service is something that we're really focusing on for the enterprise that's currently announced in Catalyst. This is businesses allowed to provide their idle capacity. So the end users or the customers or the consumers of the pilot that we're working with will be providing their idle capacities to Iagon. This also de-risks any form of centralization, because there's multiple parties here. It's not just one party attributing to the network. It's the consumers and the users of that specific pilot that are providing the idle capacities. And not only that, that creates like a private distributed cloud. So it's gated towards, not gated in a sense, but it's gated specifically for those businesses and clientele within that pilot circle, which allows you to participate in it as a node operator, but also as a user. So you can use their services. And when we have our end users using a specific service, you can actually choose a region, you can choose a provider, you can choose the thing, you can actually specifically use these services. So it'll be much more scalable, much more performant, because these business clients of the pilot have very high performant devices, very available devices. We're talking about industrial level. And further, what's interesting about this pilot is that once we have this private distributed cloud, what we can do is have a white label solution on top of the pilot's laptops. So the pilot produces laptops as well. And basically, it will allow us to have an Iagon powered white label solution. And this is the potential, if the pilot is successful, that every machine, every laptop will have an Iagon powered cloud service by default. So, for example, some laptops come with certain cloud services. You can imagine how that can scale on the demand side very quickly, because and that negates any legalities and let's say legal issues that this pilot might face if it was a completely distributed cloud service, meaning that random people are providing their services. This is focused on the private distributed cloud, meaning the clientele of the pilot are providing their idle capacities, people that they have already contracts with, already vetted. So this provides kind of a very easy go-to-market strategy, and very easy for their legal team to apply to their products. Uh, and this also allows them to reduce the price of the cloud services to the end user. So the people that are buying laptops are paying maybe much more, undercutting the market by a big margin. So there's a win on the user side because you're using cloud services at a much cost-effective manner, but at the same performance, even higher performance than current cloud solutions. The other side is the business clients that are providing their idle capacity. They're gaining an extra revenue that they never had. So the pilot can either share the revenues with these business clients, or they can actually undercut their services to these business clients, so they can reduce their costs. So it's a win-win scenario for everyone involved in this storage economy. And obviously a great use case for Iagon and Cardano.
Thank you there, Dr. Nav. Um, just to make sure that I understand the impact of this enterprise solution, this basically opens up the floodgates for big brands, big companies to now begin providing their idle compute power, right, to Iagon, basically boosting the available resources for end users looking to take advantage of Iagon's solution. Is that correct?
Correct. And at the same time, you're not just providing idle capacities, but you're creating a scalable network in an instant. Something that not only we've had a problem with, something layer ones have had a problem with as well. So I think this will provide a solution for a lot of problems.
Perfect. And for anybody who just wants to maybe find out more, I believe there's a Catalyst proposal. You guys had sort of teased this out earlier. I'll leave the links to it down below. But for anybody who isn't already aware, IdeaScale contains all of the proposals there. You've got all the information, as you guys can see, the amount requested in ADA, and then we've got all the details about the actual solution, of course, with the retraction of the actual companies participating as a part of the pilot. Now, that said, Dr. Nav, we have to discuss timelines. When can we expect for something like this to hit the mainnet if the proposal is approved?
We're making sure that there's error attached to any kind of deadline. So, but current deadline for example, any kind of adoption would probably be sometime next year. And first, the pilot has to succeed. If the test is succeed, because they will be testing out first the Iagon nodes and the Iagon node software. And if everything goes well there, then the next step is probably the white label solution, and also potentially the compute later on. So there's a lot of different variables that we can get into once the pilot has succeeded. But we're looking at between from January, about 6 months to 12 months. And I hope that it's in the lower range, because I don't think the pilot will take that long, and as long as the software is stable. And that's what we're completely focusing on right now. So that's why we've seen some delays in some of our other releases that we were planning on doing. For example, the compute mainnet, which is actually scheduled for last month. But since this pilot was onboarded, we've been completely focusing a lot of our work on this.
Yeah, I think the dividends that you'll earn from onboarding enterprise, I think, will be well worth it. Not by any means knocking any of your other developments. I think that they're all just as important, but I think enterprise adoption is very, very needed. Let's maybe shift gears a little bit and talk about delegated staking. For anybody who isn't aware, can you explain what that is and how this plays a role in the Iagon ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just making sure that when you're staking, there's a purpose behind it. Staking for just the sake of staking, for me, is not useful, and earning yields on it. I think that if there's utility behind the staking, that makes much more sense, and that's why we've thought long and hard how to involve token holders that don't have the tech know-how to set up a node. Um, and obviously, we took inspiration from at home, which is Cardano, about delegated staking. So Cardano, you can delegate your ADA and earn passive revenue in ADA rewards. I think that we wanted to do something similar. And obviously, none of the Cardano native tokens have done this yet, so it's very relatively new in terms of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is basically you're able to delegate your IAG tokens to node operators that want to expand their services or even start their services. So you have tech savvy people that know how to run a node, and you have non-tech savvy people that hold IAG tokens. And their tokens are idle, are not doing any work, where the tech savvy people have the devices, maybe don't have enough tokens to allocate to the devices. So we're finding that kind of match in between. So people that have tokens can delegate their tokens to node operators that have the capacity and increase their capacity. So thereby creating a marketplace within itself, so people can offer their nodes and to anyone who wants to delegate, and they will always have a reputation score based on their performance and their availability and their devices and how much storage they're looking for. And then you have token holders that want to delegate. The node operators will be also able to set their profit margins. So, for example, if you're a node operator and you looking for a certain type of delegation to your node to increase your capacity, you can decide yourself what your profit margins are. Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30 to the delegators? Whatever that might be. And then we don't want to be influencing how the market evolves, obviously. So the market decides on who they want to delegate to and what kind of nodes they're interested in. Same like Cardano, right? And you have your margins, you have different kind of pledges and things like that. So you decide where do you want to delegate your ADA to. Same as here, where you can and the biggest part of ADA delegation is that ADA is liquid, and that was another problem that we had to solve. Here, it's kind of semi-liquid. It is liquid, so you can dilute your position when you're staking. But since our model is different, we provide we provide storage to end users, and we need to have stable kind of use case for end users. They have to have storage availability. You can't just shut down your node and not have storage availability. If there's a file there, it needs to be migrated. So we have a 3-month locking period. But in that 3 months, you're able to a continuous 3-month locking period, meaning that you can unstake and you have to wait 3 months to receive back your IAG tokens, and you can unstake whenever you want. But you can also sell that position, sell that staked IHG. So for a small discount, according to the marketplace, you can actually sell that position to people that are looking to buy maybe at a discounted price staked IHG. So all this kind of intricacies that we're looking at in terms of so much complexities, has taken us a long time to get to the audit process. So we had started the audit process back in August, and there's been back and forth, and even the pilot has kind of delayed certain things because of this audit. Because of the pilot, the audit has been delayed a little bit as well, and also because Icon released the updated version. So we had to redo some of the contract language. So it's been a long time, but now we very close to delegated staking. I think people will be. It's a first on Cardano. It's first, maybe even Web3 ecosystem in terms of how it's looking. So it looks very complex, but we're trying to make it easy on the front end for users as well.
Kudos to you and the team for taking this approach, right? Obviously not the easy road when it comes to staking. It obviously is a lot of work, but I think in the long term it'll pay off, especially when I'm looking at it from an end user's perspective, right? Like I mentioned, I currently don't run a node, but if I hold Iagon, right, that allows for me to at least put it to work for me, and I'm not maybe making all of the rewards that I would make as if I'm a node operator, but I'm at least able to get something, right? So I think it's a win-win, obviously, for Iagon as a protocol. You guys are getting more people up and running. From a holder's perspective, they can now earn a little bit. And then from a node operator's perspective, if they didn't have enough Iagon to sort of get operations up and running or weren't able to expand, they now have the means to do that. So again, I think it's a really wonderful solution and something that helps the entire ecosystem, including Iagon, continue to grow. Now, we've already sort of touched on the Cyclone hardware, but do you maybe mind breaking down how people are able to contribute to Iagon before the cyclones, and then maybe what the expectations are, once the cyclones start to ship and go out? Is that going to be sort of the de facto way for people to contribute to Iagon's storage model?
Yeah, so Cyclone won't be the de facto way. It's just more so creating more use cases and creating more opportunities for people that don't know how to set up a node. So we have the delegated staking for the non-tech, and we have the Cyclone for the non-tech savvy. So maybe you want your own node, you're not non-tech savvy, but you can still participate. We want to try to make it as inclusive as possible, not exclusive. So we want to try to get as much participation from a broader audience as possible. So this is kind of the goal of providing these tools. And even if you don't have the Cyclone, you can still set up a node operation through data centers, to core locations, through your PC. We have different kind of software available: Linux, Mac, Windows, CLI. We have NAS support, Synology, QNAP. So a lot of different softwares being supported, and we're trying to make the Cyclone kind of the easiest device to get into, because it's the optimal setup in our opinion. So that'll make it easy for troubleshooting and support and things like that. So it won't be a de facto, but it will be more so. But you can also run a storage node, a compute node, and even Cardano Relay node on one of these devices. You can even run so it's pretty heavy duty. So you can actually run multiple nodes on these devices, especially the QS Pro, which is able to handle all this, all these tasks. In terms of the compute, we are thinking of releasing that later this year, as long as the pilot is first established, all the internal audits and the external audits are done thoroughly. We're thinking of releasing at least the MVP's version of the compute on Mainnet sometime this year, hopefully. And I don't want to guarantee it, because sometimes when you guarantee things, it doesn't work out. But for the compute side, what we're trying to look for is making it also very simple. So the initial version, what we're looking to do is being able to, you can actually, as a developer, just log in your GitHub, upload your repository, and run the repository through the distributed compute. And if that instance fails, there's a backover failure for another compute to take over. It's not completely distributed, just like, for example, storage wasn't in the beginning phase, but the long-term vision is there to make it fully decentralized, and that's what we want to get to. And obviously, at a certain instance, there has to be certain centralized before we get to fully decentralized, and that's what we want to get to. That's our aim. And then for compute instances, we also want for the Cyclone to create like a marketplace, something easy as an Android app store or Apple App Store where you install certain plugins to run nodes. For example, let's say if you have a marketplace on the compute, install a plugin. Let's say it's a Cardano node. So install, boom, you're running a Cardano node. That's how simple we want to try to make it. Obviously, the dev team is going to struggle, and I have to. I like making things complex but easy for the user. So I think in the end, it will long term is always what we're thinking about, making sure it's future proof and future adoption and things like that. So we're focusing on easy tools, and we can also in the future be able to run different types of nodes, like Cerberus nodes, for example, or any kind of nodes that want to be run on that network, on that compute instance.
Now, will that be able to be done simultaneously? Because again, you're now mentioning Iagon storage, Iagon compute, Cardano node, Cerberus node. Again, this is all going to be happening at the same time. Is that correct?
So not for the Cyclone. Cyclone will only be able to handle possibly 2 nodes, storage and a compute node, or storage and a Cardano node, right? So you can either, that would be the ideal setup. I mean, you could probably max it out, probably run multiple nodes on it, but it's not meant for that. We will have a recommendation, and in the app itself, we'll let you know exactly what the limitations are. But for example, if you're running without a device and you have a compute subscription to any kind of computing power on the app itself, you don't need any device. You can actually run on compute nodes that are providing their idle capacity. So compute nodes that are providing the idle capacity, think about it at a large scale. If there's so many computing power around the world, you can run your own instances on these computing power if you'd like. So you can run multiple instances of whatever you like as long as the capacity is there.
Yeah, that's almost like Inception, right? Like you're using Iagon's compute power to then run additional services or additional nodes. Really interesting concept to think about. One last question before we jump into the very last topic. Can we expect additional hardware from Iagon in addition to the Cyclones?
So the Cyclone is Cyclone QS Pro is the latest one. We do have plans later to have additional hardware, upgraded hardware, even more enterprise level hardware that might be even more heavy duty. As we talked about, that includes GPU power as well. So there will be more heavy duty power devices in the future, but nothing has been released publicly yet, and I don't think it will be anytime soon. First, we want to focus specifically on getting the Cyclone right. It is our first hardware. We want to make sure we focus on delivering that in a professional manner.
All right. So, Dr. Nav, as we get into our second to last topic, there's actually one that's just came on my radar. I want to discuss the compute mainnet. So, as a part, or just throughout this conversation today, you've hinted at compute. Could you maybe, expound on the importance of this and sort of how it maybe brings Iagon to the next level?
Yeah, so we're able to do a lot of things with compute. We're able to do website hosting, dynamic website hosting dApps. It will create a lot of different use cases. So when we're talking about compute mainnet, it's specifically CPU right now, and later we will focus on GPU, which will also provide different services. So there's a lot of unique UK, not unique, but a lot of use cases, I would say, that will we will be able to do. Also indexing that will help with sharding mechanisms and encryption. All this will be can be used. Compute can be utilized for that, and we're excited to hopefully launch that sometime this year, at least the MVP version, if not beginning of the next year.
So as we jump into the final questions here, you guys have been working, I believe, as midnight pioneers, right? You guys have taken um, an approach, I think, towards bringing, I want to say it's healthcare data using midnight or through midnight. But in addition, there's been a tease of a potential Iagon blockchain. Now, I don't want to
Yes.
assume anything. Is there anything that you can share here with us as a bit of alpha?
Yeah, so we were actually the first ones to get approved for the Network Explorer, which is the partner chain itself, right? So we applied for Catalyst funding in Fund 12 for Network Explorer, which is working directly with partner chain and IOG in regards to this setup. So we will be the first to create documentation for other people to follow and how to construct a partner chain. And we are looking at obviously building our own blockchain layer for the data availability to show, on-chain verifiable data, and also showing proof of existence, proof of immutability, different kind of things that we want to showcase on top of the chain. And we don't want to burden the L1 for all that information. I think that it's too redundant and also unnecessary to put too much constraint on the L1 just to get all that information out there. That's why we're taking this route. And also it's for indexing and for a lot of Web3 use cases. But we found out there's a lot of Web2 use cases here as well. So supply chain, proof of supply chain in terms of that. We also have in terms of audit trails. So making sure that the file is being shared to the right parties and it's geo-constrained in the right locations. There's a lot of use cases actually that we could be using that are on-chain metrics that show in a trustful way that this is correct information. So there's a lot of use cases that we can dive into for that, but it's going to be using, hopefully, we haven't got into the details yet in terms of how it's going to be transacting, what's going to be used, but hopefully it will use IAG as a transactional currency. But again, this is not finalized yet.
That would be an additional bit of utility for the IOG holders there.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to hold you to it. I feel like we've already sort of built out a long list of to-dos for the developers here, but any sort of loose timelines, for the partner chain or for at least the MVP using the Midnight Network?
Yeah, for the MVP Midnight, we've actually submitted something to them already in regards. We haven't shared anything publicly yet, but we have submitted something along some medical data, but hopefully we're waiting for them to get back to us on that. There's interest there on that side, so we'll see how that materializes and how long. But it obviously is in the legal phase right now. We're just making sure that the T's and dots are crossed off before we proceed there. And for the timelines for the Network Explorer, it will be sometime next year. We're looking at around the beginning of Q2 to end of Q2. And obviously, we have to submit something else. I think we're slightly delayed on the first submission, first milestone submission for the Network Explorer because of all this pilots. So we will be submitting something hopefully in the beginning of November that will showcase the capabilities of Partnerchain.
I will definitely be looking forward to that. Dr. Nav, I typically like to close out with closing thoughts. So this is your opportunity. If there's any key takeaways or just any important notes that you want to share with the community, now is your chance.
I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's so much to catch, so much to think about in terms of Iagon. I think that the biggest takeaway is that we want to try to get everyone to participate in the shared storage and compute economy. It's all about participation in the end. If you believe in kind of the distributed way or decentralized way, I think that using apps and dApps that cater to that, I think that's a good start. I think we're just at the beginning of this kind of phase of Web3 adoption to Web2. There's a lot of good interest in Web2 and to try to get adoption into Web3. So I think that there's a lot to look forward to as a Cardano community, not just for Iagon, but Cardano in general. So I mean, if you guys want to have a look at Cyclone, it's at cyclone.iagon.com. We will have a referral program as well. 5% kickback to people that refer other people to purchase the Iagon Cyclone. And that's certain. I will let you guys know when that's launched. Also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or X and Discord. We'll happily answer your questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Navjeet Dalawal, thank you for taking the time to join me here for today's stream, or for today's, I guess, pre-recorded video. The links to all of the important socials will be left down below. So that's Twitter, X, Discord, Telegram, you name it. Check that out down there. And of course, as he's mentioned, go ahead and check out the official Cyclone QS website if you want to go ahead and pre-order and potentially get that kickback once that goes live. That'll do it here for today's video. If you, the viewer, have found any portion of this to be helpful, please, number one, make sure to smash that thumbs up. Number two, consider subscribing to the channel. And then number three, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns as it pertains to any of the topics that we've discussed today, whether it's just the Iagon storage model, their compute mainnet, their catalyst proposals, etc., make sure to leave a comment down below. I'll be monitoring those and passing those over to the official Iagon team. That said, and as always, again, Dr. Nav, thank you so much. And for the viewers, we'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers, everybody. Take care.